First off, I want to thank the brave men and women who work behind the wall. I want to thank them on a national level because their job goes unrecognized.
How do they try to turn a guard?
Well, correctional officer. Sorry, I apologize. But correctional officer.
How are you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Guys, this is a really good topic coming your way. I want to make sure that I give credit where credit's due. So Connie's on the show. Actually, once she is done yawning, she's going to go ahead and introduce to you the topic because it is late for Connie. It's late.
Oh my God.
Connie, what's the topic today, Connie?
So the topic today is the dangers of inmate protection. I think, certainly there are instances where an inmate be like, I got your back, or I got you, right? And, sometimes we don't check it. Sometimes we leave it as is. And so we don't necessarily know what that means unless we do. And in those instances where you don't really know what that means, you could really be getting yourself caught up in something. So I look forward to us talking about that.
I think it's a great topic, by the way, Connie. I mean, we've touched on it before. It's actually in the book I got, Inmate Manipulation Decoded, but it is a very powerful topic because it happens. And I have a great story to start off with when we come back from our sponsors, which I don't know if it still happens. So I'm very curious to see if anybody that's in the audience can relate to the first story I'm going to say. But Connie, real quick, can you introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. Connie Alleyne here. I am the founder and president of the Civilian Corrections Academy. I'm also the author of The Cage Was Her Cocoon. So I'm here for it.
Thanks for this great topic. Now, guys, real quick, if you haven't, the show Tier Talks for you, brave men and women that work in corrections. So please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. We're going to go to our sponsor and we come back. Let's talk about the dangers of inmate protection. Stand by.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it. It's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
All right, then we're back. Let me just tell you a quick story real quick. I'm sure there's going to be some people that are very familiar with this story. But I used to know a supervisor who, like, if you were new to a unit, instead of the supervisor, maybe helping you or, telling you which one of your peers can help you, they would literally say, hey, such and such inmate's been in this unit for 20 years. Any questions, go ask them. So right off the up, it happens. You know what, guys? If that's happened to you, comment. But it does happen. But I want to mention something real quick because it kind of relates to protection. Protection leads to obligation. Let's be honest, right? I'm doing you a solid by protecting you. Therefore, you owe me. So now when I went into that unit and the supervisor did that, what that supervisor didn't realize they were doing is they were putting me in a position of obligation to that inmate. So definitely very dangerous because at that point, there could be a moment where I'm going to feel obligated to pay that inmate back. It's just human nature. But Connie, how did this topic come to you?
This topic came to me because I actually thought about an inmate saying, Miss Alleyne, don't worry, I got you. And I was new, so I didn't really know what that meant. And so I'll backtrack a little bit. I was having an interaction with an inmate in my office, trying to set him up for services, and he started to get loud. And I think he was getting loud. He was just agitated for whatever reason. The reason was he wanted me to make a call to his girlfriend. And I was like, no, I wouldn't do it. I was like, well, they got phones for you to use. This ain't the phone for you to use. And it was in the context, though, of him needing a place to stay. And I was like, well, I don't know if the girlfriend has an order of protection out on you. I'm not going to be the one making a call to this girl, your girlfriend. And then it's a situation. So he started to get a little loud. And so over time, inmates get to know you. They know what you do. And so one of the inmates were walking by my office to go to the pharmacy. And he looked in and was like, yo, what's up with that? But he wasn't talking to me. He was talking to the inmate in the chair. At which point I just kind of get up and I walk out of the office and I go to the office and I was like, yo, this is over. But I got you, Miss Alleyne. Like, I didn't know what that meant, but the officer heard him say, oh, I got you, Miss Alleyne. So he was like, what has he got? I was like, I don't know. He was like, you should probably find out. And in the moment, I didn't think to find, like, because I didn't know this inmate. Like, he knew who I was, but I didn't know him. So I didn't feel comfortable to go be like, what you talking about, right? Like, that's just not even my nature, right? Because it's kind of almost confrontational, which I'm not that type of person. Anyway, there was another time though, where I was kind of like walking the corridor and I saw the same inmate. And I was like, what do you mean by that? Like, cause it wasn't like a confrontation. Now it was something casual. We're kind of just walking our separate ways in the corridor. And he was like, nah, I just didn't want you to worry about him. And even with that, I was like, because now I'm still fairly new. I don't know what to do with that kind of information or those words. Like, are they veiled threats? Are they promises to do something to this person? I don't want anybody to get hurt. That's not my thought process. But then I'm thinking, so why would he want to do that for me? Right? Like, why is he volunteering to insert himself in a situation for me? Am I going to owe him something? And the thought of owing him something made me go back to the officer who happened to be my regular clinic officer. And I was like, listen, I don't feel comfortable. Let me tell you what just happened. At which point he kind of broke down all of these scenarios that as a new person, you're like, what? But it really is very eye-opening when essentially that kind of talk could be protecting me in an office. So every inmate comes in is going to be super nice. And I don't know why. Right. And then at some point that inmate is going to come ready to cash his check. And I'm like, yo, I don't owe you nothing. Oh, yes, you do. You see, every interaction you had has been good. Nobody's arguing with you. Nobody's getting in your face. And I just didn't want that. It's actually a scary feeling to know that there's some, blind obligation out there that at any given moment, somebody could be coming to cash in and expecting you to respond because they've been protecting you all this time.
Yeah, and there's a couple great things about your story that I want to pull out of, by the way. First off, it's also scary to see an inmate have that much control over other inmates. So they are a threat at that point, right? So that's another thing, guys, because if he has the ability to make all these inmates nice, he also has the ability to make all these inmates not so nice.
Do you see how amazing that is, though? Like, in all these years, I never thought of that point that you just made. So thank you. No, seriously, I didn't think about the flip side of that, right? That like, yeah, so if that inmate could make them nice, they could also make them not nice. And he has a lot of power for some reason. I didn't even think about the danger of how much power he has or how much influence he has as an inmate.
Yeah, but you know what's funny? You may not have, sometimes we don't think we think it, but our body feels something. So you're very inward. So something doesn't feel right, whether you can explain it or not. So I'm not going to give myself full credit that you didn't know that because you did the right thing. But let me toss a little credit back your way because there was another part I want to add. The fact that you asked why is what made you know this wasn't a good gesture. Because most people would say, oh, that's very nice. He wants to, that's very nice of him. But then you're coming out and saying, whoa, wait a second. Why? That why is what literally pulled you out of the good gesture that this inmate was trying to, or the perception of a good gesture. Now, I want to mention something too, guys. Protection isn't always against a physical threat. Also a protection for your job. Like you have a sergeant that's constantly on your ass, and you as an officer now have a unit that, needs to maintain some level of cleanliness, whatever it is. The inmate could make you look good. Promise to, don't worry, I'll protect you from that sergeant. They won't come after you. I'll make sure, you look like you're doing your job good. I got this. So the protection isn't always about a physical threat. It could be about anything that falls into that obligation. Because technically, even the protection that Connie mentioned, if you really want to kind of sum it down, it's really a favor for a favor. That's what it is. however it is. And I will tell you something, guys, when an inmate makes an effort to protect against the physical, usually it's because they may see something weak in that staff member. I want people to know that. And at all times, let me tell you why you should never be seen as weak. Even if you're tentative by nature, you're still surrounded by your peers and support that will go the extra mile for you. So you're never truly alone, and we complement each other. So if I'm an inmate and I offer you that level of protection, the first thing, okay, I'm looking at, okay, is this person weak? Or does this person talk to anybody? Like, does this person talk to any of the support staff? Because if they don't, then the offer of protection is great on my end because I'm telling them that they're not alone. So guys, if you want to eliminate that offer, literally show these inmates that you communicate with staff. And the moment that inmate goes, can I protect you? What's your response? What the hell do I need you for? Code. And then you get your boys coming right behind you or your squad coming right behind you, and there's no issues there. But do you think that could be some of the reasons why an inmate may even attempt to make that offer, that specific offer of protection?
So I think so. So one, I think being new to the system, you could tell I was new. Like I was still trying to figure things out. I still was trying to figure out where things were located. And I could have had almost like I don't want to say a lost kind of way about me. But like, when you know exactly where you're going, you walk with a level of confidence, right? When you know exactly what you're doing, you speak with a level of confidence. And I think that because I was still so new, like you could tell that I was literally trying to help everybody. And for those who were more seasoned around me, it was like, yo, get out of here. Like even just the tone of voice, right, was very different than me. That was like, oh my goodness. So how can I help you? So let's figure this out. Like it was all these different kind of words that we just don't necessarily use. Like I wasn't always very direct and very straightforward. And I didn't understand always the power of language or the power of words and how they could influence either way a situation or someone's mindset or an inmate's mindset. So I think there was that newness about me. I think there was, so on Rikers, like it was a matter also of a lot of them looked at me like a bigger sister or like a little sister, depending on what inmate it was, how old they were. And it wasn't an intentional thing. It was kind of always like, nah, don't mess with Miss Alleyne, right? Like she over there trying to help people out. And I think part of maybe the weakness is like when you are like really just trying to do good things, like you never know who's seeing you as like a friend or a role model. Like you evolve into something that you don't intend to be to them. And this could be all fabricated in their minds that, oh yeah, she's mad cool, she's this, she's that. Like that wasn't my intention. I was just doing my job and they created their own narrative. But like, I think it is possibly also me always having, like I would always go to custody. Like I was afraid to like mislead or say the wrong things. So the more seasoned custody officers that were around me, like I would literally be like, yo, Brown, what am I supposed to do with this kind of stuff? Like, and he'd be like, all right, come, let me talk to you. And like, that was like how I grew up and learned in corrections. So I think people could see that. And if the opportunity presented, I think if they didn't see the officers around me, like really like helping me navigate it, I could have definitely been caught up in something. Like I could see that happening now in retrospect.
Right. And guys, I want you to know, whatever the form of the protection comes in, doesn't matter the form, who's got the power? You know what I mean? I mean, if you have an inmate that's coming up to you saying, don't worry, I got your back in this unit, what are they also saying about you? You're weak, and therefore you don't have power. I mean, think about it. It doesn't matter even if it's an offer to help you run the unit, clean the unit, whatever it is, the power is going towards the inmate. So the moment when that inmate offers that level of protection and whatever it is, maybe job security, physical threat, whatever it is, know for a fact that if you accept it, you just handed the inmate over your most valuable possession, which is your perception of authority over them. Because as Connie said, the protection isn't for free. And the sad thing is, Connie, this is what it is, though. Let me add something else too to that, because you mentioned something about the end game, the end result. The protection is going to get to the point where you become reliant. That's how the game works. So I'll guarantee you, once you accept that offer, the world becomes a little bit more dangerous, or the unit becomes a little bit harder to handle. So now the inmate has a reason to step up. You see them play that role. And then the moment when you realize, like, yo, this doesn't work for me, well, now the unit's harder to handle, or now you're getting more threats. So now you become reliant on what that offer is. So the concern, guys, is the moment you even think about accepting it, the world's going to change, because the inmate's now going to have to prove what? That you need that protection right off the bat. So if I'm offering you something, and it's because I'm going to make the world change for you, because the moment you accept it, all these things that require me to step up and protect as an inmate is now going to come into existence. And now you're going to be a person that's going to be relying on me to the point where I'm going to, play it out for a while, but then eventually I'm going to ask for something. You may say, no, I don't want to do it. Not a problem. But then watch the world. You're going to have no control of your unit. You're going to be threatened. Whatever the game is, you're going to be threatened all the time. Whatever the game is, that's because the inmate got to that point where you're going to become reliant, and all that is going to be an effort to bring you back. And then they're going to be like, listen, don't ever do that again. So who's in control? Right? So the moment you go to step away to take some control, these situations arise even worse than before. And then out of desperation, what happens? You go back to the inmate. I'm getting yelled at by my sergeant. I'm getting threatened. Can you help me? The inmate's like, I'll help you this time, but don't ever do that again. Connie, can you see that playing out?
I see that playing out. And as you explain it, I'm like, no wonder why they transferred the inmate out of the facility. Like, I'm just thinking to myself, like, oh, you don't have to transfer him. It's not that serious. But like, look at how it could play out, right? Like, so look at if he did take away his influence or his protection, right? Like, what would every encounter for me be if he was allowed to stay? And I mean, to this day, like, I just remember the officer was like, Connie, don't worry about it. Like that was it. Like, we talked about it. I talked to my clinic captain, and I was like, Cap, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do about this. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. And it was like twice, don't worry about it. But like, I didn't know what don't worry about it meant at the time. But like, I feel like oftentimes we may think it's an overreaction to something, right? But like, truly neutralizing the threat or the protection, or being able to come forward so that you could get the support you need to neutralize it, is just so important. And now we're having this conversation. I haven't reflected on that in so long, but like, there's such an appreciation I had for the officers around me, for the ability to be transparent and be like, yo, I don't even know what he's talking about or why he's talking about this. And here it is, like, fast forward a couple of months, here I am, a supervisor. And now these decisions are in my hands. And it's like, look at how much stuff you had to learn in order to like protect your staff. It's just, the journey, I think, is something we're so busy doing. We're working every day, and like vicariously we learn these things through the situations we experience. But how important is it for us to be able to identify that there is a threat, whether we realize it or not? Whether we are actively like engaged in the environment or not. Such a simple comment as, I got you, Miss Alleyne, could have just went over my head in the moment because it was a simple comment. But like, I didn't know what that meant. And I'm really grateful for the people around me that was like, oh, let me tell you what that means.
Connie, it's great because it's actually a threat hidden in the opposite of a threat. Which is true. It's basically, in a world that, people are threatening you, here comes the opposite. I'm going to protect you. And for us, it stands out so much. You know, that's why we would pick up on it. In a world where you're expected this type of behavior and someone comes out as doing this, that's the behavior that you question. You question the behavior that's opposite of what you would expect, because then well, what's the intent behind? You asked it. What's the intent? Like, the funny thing is, if someone goes to threaten you, it may be expected in this world because they're not getting what they want or whatever it is. So we're not asking why. We just want it resolved. But when someone comes up and says, hey, I'm going to protect you. Whoa, why? That's unique. You know, you want to protect me after I didn't give you anything that you wanted? It doesn't play out. And you also mentioned something else. So this would be a quick little note. If there's a chance where a situation arises where an inmate does protect you, you know, because it could happen, get assaulted on a unit, inmate comes to your rescue. We don't even know if the inmate set that up. We don't know anything about it. But the best thing to do is to separate that inmate from that officer, and if need be, ship the inmate out. You don't want to have that officer with that feeling of obligation, which does make sense at that point, to be overseeing that inmate. Even if the inmate's good intent is pure, there's ways that we can settle that obligation out. But the best thing is what Connie said: get the inmate out, alleviate that feeling of obligation for that officer. And that's not a weakness to do that for the officer. That's what should be done. Because whatever we do as management, it's to protect us, yes, from the population, but to protect us from ourselves, the natural human emotion, which is really what obligation is based on. You know, hey, Connie, anything you'd like to say in closing?
I would just like to say it's very interesting that we're talking about this, and like, you know, after years of reflecting, just having a different appreciation for those who are around me, who kind of help guide me and protect me through this process. You know, I think, you know, for people who are coming into the system who are new, like, you really just have to be open to learning, because every day you're going to learn something new. I mean, we do these shows all the time, and I learn something from you guys all the time. So, you know, it's just really, I'm appreciating these dialogues, because even now, here it is 20 years later, like, I'm still learning. And, you know, for those who are watching, just know that you guys are getting the benefit from like some of our mishaps, our mistakes, our learning blunders where things could have went completely left. And thankfully, we had good people around us who could help us get into the right space. So, you know, if you haven't subscribed to Tear Talk, you need to, because certainly we do a lot of giving of ourselves. We try to pour into this industry as much as we can.
Well, I must say, obviously, you know, we learn a lot from you. And I actually learned to truly have respect for civilians because you exist in that. So to be honest with you, if it wasn't for you, I would still have this myopic perspective. When the end of the day is, it's not about an isolated vision. It's about how we could work together. So just, you know, thank you for helping me grow. So I appreciate
that. Who would have thunk it? Thank you.
Well, secretly, I had to one-up you because we're on air. So, we're still recording? I meant what I said, Connie. Guys, if you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post up a video. Stay safe.
You got your whole hand in the thing while you're talking about stay safe.
Oh, was I? Oh, wait, I'm still recording. Hold on.